tú no quieres beber, tengo fila hasta 3. No te necesito más. Te crees mucho, lo sé. Hoy que te digo sé, pero hay más en Instagram. Si tú no quieres beber, tengo fila hasta 3. No te necesito más. Te crees mucho, lo sé. Hoy que te digo sé, pero hay más en Instagram. Te crees mujer de lo que eres, pero en el mundo lo que a mujeres me la creía. Hasta ese día que me engañaste, ¿qué más?
Reciclaba amores y estabas tú, te necesitaba.
What's up with it? Do it cause I love it and I stuck with it. We ain't with the subbing in the cut with it. Please none of the talks, I heard enough of it. Like, what you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk about it. Real eyes, realize all the time. Stand on it, if we said it, we don't walk around it. Loose lips, sink ships, red cup, blue strips, new phone, who this? No, we don't allow it. Really on go, I don't know what's an off day. Now we on road, came from smoking in the hallway. Now we got shows, boys feeling like Broadway. Always look both ways, even on a crossway. Driving down Cross Bay, out town Barclays. Really on big things, came up a small way. Championship rings, baby, that's a ball game. Oh, she want a little bag, baby, that's small change. Yeah, that money talk. If we ain't cool, then cut me off. No breaking news, don't run your mouth. Thought it was the plug, now he running off. Thought it was a plug, now he running off. What you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk.
Hey guys, it's Thursday night, and I know you just saw the promo. Yeah, we're talking about Passport Bros tonight, and the only way I can talk about Passport Bros is with the guys. So, you know, it's Real Talk with the Men. You got RJ, who is from Michigan. You got Ish from New York. Of course, you got Gaylon from Chicago, and you got Matt from Florida. Guys, this is like a real thing happening. I didn't even know this. And I just want to say thanks to the Real Talk guy who sent this over to me. We won't shout his name out, but he's on tonight. That's all I got to say. It's possibly the one who's grinning the hardest. But folks, this is a real conversation, and I thought it would be great to have it with you guys because it's different views and perspectives on it, right? And so I wanted to make sure that we covered it. Although I didn't even know this was a big trend because I'm not a guy. I'm not a guy looking for a woman, right? So, of course, I didn't know it was a trend. But when you guys say, let's talk about it, I'm like, let's talk about it. So the first question, because this is a hot night, we got videos to show in between. So guys, what is your understanding of Passport Bros? And RJ, I'm going to start with you.
Of course. So I would say it's basically this is kind of two double-ended. So you got some guys who travel with their passports to go to certain countries to have fun with women and come back home and like it never happened. And you have some that travel over there to potentially find a mate, if you will, and maybe that's successful for some. I'm not so sure. So that's my take on it.
Okay, what about you, Ish?
Well, I think it's a generational thing. You know, I first heard about that stuff back in the late 2000s. You know, a few of my friends are going to different places like Dominican Republic, whatever. But I think now it's different with the millennials and the Gen Z. They're saying there's a whole movement called the McDowell movement, men going their own way. So these men are going to other countries to find wives to bring them back to America because they're not happy with the stock of women we have here, you know.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, Matt?
So I think it's always been there. It's just getting more and more common. People do it, I think, for a couple reasons. Some go for a good time. Some go to find a wife. Some go and never come back. But I think Eddie Murphy, I think it was in the 80s. Look, go find you one. And then the problem is when she get here, she's going to act like the ones who are already here. So anyway, I think it's been
Oh,
wow.
that's interesting. So, Gaylon, I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
I don't I don't know why there's no enlightened answer based upon this. I just think it's a preference. There's some guys, as all of the gentlemen have already stated, that for whatever reason they're either going across the seas to play, or to find, or to go and stay, whether they're playing or finding someone to be with. Many times, often based upon the concept or the belief that the qualities that they're looking for in either the women they're dating or potential partners, marriage partners, for instance, are not up to snuff from their perspective. So since they don't like what they see, they go elsewhere. Sometimes that's, based upon a lot of different things, especially from other cultures that tend to have women who tend to be, for lack of terms, more submissive in their personality types based upon their culture. And, for some guys, that's a real high.
Interesting. So, based on our perspective, folks, we're going to watch a video from the Godfather, as they call him.
Oh boy.
All I can say is the Godfather of Passport Bros. So, only thing I can see is I think all of this is interesting for me. But yeah, so let's check out what he has to say.
Why are you not investing in tax liens? No, seriously.
Sorry about that.
Why are you not investing?
What you call these ads?
Never been on a brick in my back for.
And right at when he was really, really starting to get traction, I used to tell people, Kevin Samuels is going to end up being the next Steve Harvey. Unexpectedly dies. But yesterday I get emails like, if you really want to know the history, you got to talk to Al Grease. Al Grease is the godfather of all of this. And they said you got to go back and read this 2006 article in Essence magazine that talked about black men going to Brazil, and the article was kind of a hit job on these black men that went over to Brazil for a good time, dating, treating like a trip to Las Vegas, or looking for a wife with more traditional values or a girlfriend with more traditional values. That article comes out. And I think that sparked, we'll let Al Grease tell you what that sparked. But eventually, Al Grease has, I think, done 3 movies or documentaries about the relationship between black men and black women, and they're titled Frustrated. And so without further ado, let me bring Al Grease in and let him explain for himself some of the history and what went on in 2006 with Essence magazine and what that sparked. Because Al, I was told there were a group of you guys that in the early 2000s would go to Brazil, and that's kind of where all of this started.
First, I'd like to say thank you for having me on your platform, man. It's truly a blessing. Thank you for reaching out. I truly appreciate
Thanks
that.
Thanks for coming on.
It all started as just going on a vacation. I was a gym rat at the time, and I met a young guy that was in a motorcycle accident. And at that time, he didn't have insurance, so he saw me working out in the gym, didn't know what to do. And he asked me if I would help him, assist him in working out, because he said, I see you know what you're doing. And I told him, listen, man, I come here, we're going to work out, we don't have nothing to talk about. Put your music on, and let's go to work. And after that 6 weeks, I wanted a break. And he recommended, he said, hey, man, go to Brazil. You want to take a break? Because I worked hard 6 weeks, and then I want to take a break. Let my body take a break. And he said, go to Brazil. And I said, okay, never been. And he recommended, he gave me some information of a gentleman by the name of John Thompson, who was from New York as well. I'm from New York City. He was from New York, and he was renting out apartments at the time. So he needed a place to stay. John Thompson was the reference guy at that time. And I went, called John up. He hooked me up. Booked the flight, had an awesome time. Me and my older brother went, great time. And I got back and went to DC. My cousin lives in Washington, DC. He throws this annual barbecue out in Maryland. And I heard a gentleman speaking Portuguese. And I went over, I said, hey man, are you Brazilian? And he said, no, I'm planning on going, but I take the language. His name is Dr. Larry Davis, intelligent guy, brilliant guy. And I said, man, I just got back from there. And he said, did you read that Essence article that was going on? And I said, no, I didn't. I'm not familiar with that. I don't read Essence. He said, oh, man, you got to check this out. And I read the magazine. I read the article. I called him back up. I said, oh, this is trash. This is garbage. This is not what I just experienced. And he said, well, your cousin told me you're a filmmaker. Why don't you do something about it? And I said, you know what? I am. You're right, I am. So I went back again on my own to get to points of reference. And I met another gentleman by the name of Johnny Johnson, American guy who retired out there. And I met several guys, American guys that were retired out there. So I did some investigation, interviewed them, and told them that I was interested in doing a piece and would they like to be a part of it. Some agreed and bailed out at the end, but Johnny Johnson's a stand-up guy, ex-police officer. He said, sure, man, come on back. And I came out there to interview him and some other guys, and I ran across the Philadelphia firefighters. It was about 8 guys out there together, tripping. I said, hey, man, can I interview you about your experience and why you come out here? And that's when they shared that put this delicate, I'm not familiar with your platform, so we'll keep it delicate, but some of the troubles they were having with women in the States, and they found it more soothing to deal with more traditional women abroad, especially Brazilian women. They were fit, they were friendly, and easy to get along with. And they said they preferred that in not dealing with women who were too masculine and kind of like pulling guards and tackles. Really didn't keep themselves up to shape, keep themselves up.
Okay, guys. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Let me jump on this one first. I'm really eager to hear what Matt has to say. First of all, let me just be clear. But I do want to just add one thing that I didn't mention earlier. Using a Matt term about the marketplace value. There are guys who will go over there because they want to increase their marketplace value. In other words, being an American guy going to Brazil or Dominican or whatever increases your value. In other words, you might not be able to get that Beyonce in Chicago, LA, Miami, Detroit, etc. But you go down there and your marketplace value increases rapidly and you can date, and let's just be frank, and other things with women that you would almost have no shot with up here many times. So I just wanted to put that out there before we go forward. But I'm waiting to hear what Matt has to say. I'm like,
Matt, the floor is yours, brother. Go ahead.
Hey, listen, fellas. I think someone said it earlier, to each his own, right? So if you are an American woman, you have nothing to worry about, because reality is not every brother, not every man is going overseas to find a woman. The vast majority of men are staying right here in the United States to find their significant other. And for the people who are adventurous enough or want to try something different or want to go to a marketplace where they're extremely valuable, they may want to go overseas. But here's the problem. And Eddie Murphy called it, like I say, 30 years ago. You have to bring her back to America. And once she gets back to America, the marketplace is going to change dramatically. So I hope you were able to hold on to whatever you brought from overseas, because she's going to realize when she got here that, all those nips and tucks that are common overseas are still not common here. So they do 70,000 mile checks starting at 21 overseas. They have the dentist, dental care is so cheap, breast augmentation, BBLs, all those things that give you an itty bitty waist and a beautiful smile are dirt cheap. But when she gets here, good luck if you're able to keep her. So for most American women, I think you have nothing to worry about. For the passport bros, like I say, to each his own.
Wow. Okay, Matt, Ish.
Well, here's the thing. I remember growing up, the issue was that sisters were a little difficult to deal with. A lot of brothers would go to other women of other ethnicities to, find love or relationships. But what has happened, though, over the last 30 years, it's not just in our community. It's the total sum of the country. It's all ethnicities now. White men, Asian men, Latino men. Men are not happy. American men are not happy with the stock of women of this generation. And it's although what Matt said, it's only a small minority, but we got to look where will it be 20 years from now? According to the statistics, come 2030, 51% of women between 18 and 30 will be unmarried. Currently, I think the statistic is men, 1/3 of men between 18 and 30 are haven't had sex or haven't had sex in a year. Those numbers are growing. There's a whole new culture, there's a whole new lexicon, something called incels, involuntary celibate. These men are trying to have sexual relationships, but they cannot find women to mate with. So this is a growing trend. And I was RJ and myself, we have young kids. I'm concerned about my son. What are the women going to be like when my son and my daughter looking to marry in 15, 20 years from now? So it's not just about the passport bros. It's a bigger picture. It's dissatisfaction with the stock of women in America. That's really the issue.
Wow. That is so interesting, RJ.
I mean, it's all been well said. I think I agree with all the gentlemen here. But sticking to the video and what the gentleman had to say, I know several and men that I know do that. Go to Colombia, go to Brazil, go to DR. And it's not even so much to, quote unquote, find a mate. It's just to escape, have fun, and come back. Now, should some of them be going over there based on their status? Probably not. But that's not my business, right? But I do think there's some truth in the fact that, a lot of men are frustrated with the women here. And if we want to be direct, some of it is more addressed towards Black women. I think there's always a conflict with some Black women, not all Black women, because a lot of Black women now feel that they don't need a man. Like we've talked about that in other podcasts, that they don't necessarily need a man. So they're very confrontational and very argumentative and very difficult. So a lot of men say, well, we're not going to deal with that. We'll go overseas, have fun over there, or even bring one back. But to Matt's point, once you get her here, she's going to conform to the ways of America, and that's going to be a challenge. So that's my take on it.
Wow, that's very interesting. So I'm going to tell you, as a Black woman, I'm ready to go to commercial break. I don't know how to handle. Basically, my stock isn't good on the streets. But I tell you,
we didn't say your stock
okay
specifically, Christine. We didn't say you specifically. Now
I'm just saying, I'm speaking for Black women across America. I guess my stock isn't really valuable. Maybe I need to go overseas and be a passport woman, a chick.
Go get you a Winston.
That's the same job.
Same thing.
I just want to be clear. I'm gonna start a new trend. I can go over there and get what I want. He don't speak a lick of English, but guess what? He'll be everything that I want physically, but mentally. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna have to take care of him if he can't, get a job. So you kind of left where you are. So you might as well work what you got, ladies. Folks, we'll be right back after this quick commercial break. I got to really think about that. Maybe I'll become a passport chick.
Oh.
You right now.
Give me some directions to get to you. Ain't gonna waste my time. I know that we got connection. I think about you. You're on my mind. Yeah, I'm going out of my mind. Yeah, for you, my love. You drive me crazy, tell me what to do. I'm on my knees, yeah, I am begging you. I'll break the rules if it will get me to, yeah.
welcome back to the 5F's to Love. You know we are with Real Talk with Men because it's Thursday, right? So listen, this conversation is quite interesting to me. And I see that from the perspective of ladies, African-American women. I really don't think that this devalues our stock. I'm just going to tell you as a woman, because the guys that I saw going over there getting these chicks probably wouldn't have even been on my radar. That's number one. Number two, if they were on my radar and they're doing it, they're still not the guy that's for me anyways. I kind of think I'm rolling with Matt and Gaylon on the fact that whoever you bring over from another country, trust me, one, everybody wants to come to America and they're going to transform into what Americans do. So sooner or later, you're going to be faced with where you started at. You're going to be right back at go. Yeah, like I want to go back over there and get me another chick. Why? Because the one you bring over is just going to transform into what you're saying you don't like. I don't know. I think that I'd rather have somebody I can talk to, or maybe not. But guys, this is a bigger question for you. That whole thing about what he said, and that's not the last person that's going to say something that I think is pretty interesting. But for me, it's like, what do you think about men who grab a passport to go find a girlfriend or wife instead of, it's like, honestly, it's enough women, not just Black women in America. Why do you have to go overseas to get one? What are we missing?
I think that I'm going to tell you, traveling is fun. All right. Anyone who says that the passport bros are not having the time of their life, I think is really being disingenuous and naive. For them, going someplace, someone recognizing you as an American, wanting to know all about you, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to be valued and like given attention and treated like a celebrity? So I mean, I think that I wouldn't say that they're not enjoying themselves. I think that there's two different conversations. What passport bros are doing, and then what women should be doing. Women should be living their best lives. Live your best life here.
Now we're going to talk about that in segment 4.
And then, Christine, trust me, there are passport chicks, and they go.
I know it is.
They go to Senegal. We're not the only ones who do it.
You know, and I know it's not. And Matt, I think you're right. I think it's like a bigger conversation as to the why, right? And who doesn't want to feel like a rock star when you go out of town? Like, so when I lived in Paris, I was a rock star. I really was. But I wasn't seeking that type of attention. I lived over there for 2 years because I was there for business. But for me, it was a big, like the white men over there, the Frenchmen, oh, they were in love with me. I could have brought 20 of them back, right? But the thing is, that wasn't my thing. So, you know, getting that type of attention really didn't work for me. But the bigger conversation is the guys who are doing it, what is the big deal about it? Like, other than the fascination, like Ish, you were like, this was happening in the early, 20s, like, what is it, 2000s? This was happening, right? I didn't even know Essence Magazine did a big thing on this, right? So is this the thing? Is this a conversation that men are having that women don't know?
Absolutely. It's easy. I mean, I think most of it is it's easy to go, for example, right? Without giving too much of the playbook. For example, men can go to Colombia and be kings for a week for a very nominal fee. We'll just call it that, right? And so
you basically saying for $100, RJ, you can live like a king.
I didn't say no numbers, okay?
I'm just saying on $100, how long could I live like a king on $100?
Let's just say it's very easy, it's stress-free, and it's non-confrontational, and it's simplistic, and it's fun for certain men to go to certain countries and be, as we feel like a king, that marketplace value, and you're on cloud 9 because you're more so looked at like the man. And then you come back home and you deal with everything you deal with here. So it's about fun and it's about simplicity for a lot of guys. That's all it is.
Okay.
Well, pre-social media, I did know of some guys, again, without exposing too much information, that would go to these particular countries. All of them were married to a person. And because there was no social media and it wasn't like what's whatever you can make the what you can call internationally and video call. You couldn't do all, so there was no way to like check. I actually know a guy who traveled for work and would have to sometimes travel out of country, he would be in a whole different country that his wife would know.
Wow.
Because now it's like FaceTime me.
Right.
Back then it was like, okay, you're waiting for the international call to a house phone.
Right.
Let me be clear. I'm talking about the 90s, early 2000s. So this is a conversation that was happening a long time ago. By the time the Essence magazine catches up to it to write an article in 2006, it's been a phenomenon for at least a decade before
that.
It's just by the time the media catches up to a thing, especially when it comes to human beings creeping to do things, it's already happened. It's already settled and done. But what those articles did was ring the alarm, and guys started saying, well, I don't make a lot of money over here, but like RJ said, but I can go over here and get treated like a king for a short period of time. I'm gonna go do it. And it reminds me of being a little boy watching Fantasy Island with my grandfather. It's like the plane.
Only you, Gaylon. Only you.
The fantasy doesn't leave the island.
Right.
But while they're there, they're living out their fantasies.
Well, I'm going to tell you this video we're getting ready to watch. I will have to say that this guy is living his fantasy because it is what it is. Let's check out this video.
Mommy, what's up? What's your... Yeah, maybe. Free. What's your name? Diana. Oh my God. Yo. You got WhatsApp?
Yes. WhatsApp, baby. No chicas right now, me?
Not right now, because I'm going to meet my friend. Go pick him up for breakfast. For lunch.
Okay.
I will.
So let me just say this, and shout out again to the brother, right? He's walking around Dominican Republic, and you hear him when he says, yo, mommy, what's up? Okay. And she comes over to him, they're having a conversation, something like that. And she comes back and, tries to holler at him. It seems like she's a lady that might be a prostitute. And so she starts twerking out. That part of the video we had to maybe like blur out or something like that, right? But they exchange the messages and things like this. WhatsApp, he's going to get his friend and all of that, right? But my question is this a bad stereotype for passport bros? Now, I want to play this TikTok video of a lady who we would consider is a hater of the passport bros. Her name is Dan's HUDG. Let me play this video and we're going to come back.
The humongous difference from a regular tourist and a passport bro. So passport bros are this community of people who are getting together, who are literally like sharing their life hacks of how to get with other women in their travels, as well as simultaneously, and this is a key difference, they shit on their domestic country's women. So this is a completely sexualized tourism, right? It's not saying, hi guys, we want to travel and we want to make new connections and here's a travel blog. It's not a travel blog. It is a concerted effort to say we don't do well here. We are kind of losers here. We know that in other countries we have a economic and passport privilege. So we are going to go to other countries and we are going to use and abuse those countries' women.
Okay, guys, what's your thoughts on that?
Christine, I want to touch back on something you said earlier about, you going to Europe, what have you. The problem, though, is that you women are looking for these unicorns in men, all right? You have 80% of the women looking for, are going after the top 20% of men, right? So the guys in the bottom quarter of the dating pool are not getting any touches in the ball. So, men have a lot of testosterone. they're not getting it here. They're gonna go elsewhere. You know, women want a man who's 6 feet tall, makes six figures, has a six pack. You know, that's less than 1% of the population. So 99% of these men are not getting considered. You know, I don't know how I'd do back if I was back in the game. You know, at this age, but I mean, so you have a lot of these young men are not getting touches on the basketball, so to speak, and they make good money. They're educated men. They're going elsewhere. You know, it's supply and demand. So until we change this mindset of everybody want to be a boss babe or whatever these girls want to be, you know, men are going to go elsewhere because honestly, I mean, you said when you were in Paris, you did well, but I mean, the vast majority of the world are not looking for American women. You know, you might be the exception, but in these third world countries, they're not pining for American women. That's just a fact.
Okay, so thank you, Ish, for that clarification on that. So what are you guys' thoughts about that video?
I mean, that's just what it is. Like when they go, these women. So the thing about it is, in these countries, these women know that American men are coming at some point. They know it. So it's just a pick me. Ooh, pick me.
So we're talking about the first half of it when the Brazilian woman did the little bump.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Like she knows what it is. They recognize American men. Like American men stand out. Like let's just be honest. Like they know if you don't belong there, so they know you're there for a reason or a purpose, and so they're going to try to make it a mutual beneficial situation. Let's just put it that way.
But he also indicated, RJ, that she appeared to be possibly a prostitute.
I think a lot of guys go over there with the understanding that they're willing to pay to play. Let's continue with the conversation. Just to be honest,
1,000%.
They're more than it. Look, her guys say it point blank. You go down there, you got a certain amount of money. You can pull the top, whatever. And my brain is like, so you're paying?
You're paying either way. You're paying on the back end or the front end. Either way, you're gonna pay.
And we got to be present to that. I think one of the things that we do have to be mindful of, because I know somebody, for instance, who has a wife from China, and her family did not want him to come over, so he actually got a wife from over there, but couldn't bring her for a couple of years because because her family was scared of these quote unquote American guys because they can't differentiate between tourists, passport bros, and then there's the other that's unspoken right now in the midst of this conversation, which are predator men that get women from these other countries and they bring them here and then they control them. Prostitution and other things, sex trafficking. So they were afraid of her being sex trafficked.
Wow.
So they had, so like literally he lived there for a while. And then when he tried to come back, they were like, okay, you can get married here, but she's not coming with you. It's a lot of different conversations that's going on around this subject. And not to mention the fact that you could be a guy, you wake up and you turn around and you in ice with a tub because it took your kidney. like for real. Like because some guys are a little bit too bold about going where they don't need to go alone in these situations and circumstances, and they find themselves in positions they can't get out of.
Wow.
And these gangs and if we want to call them gangs in other countries, use these women to be able to get these men. And then, next thing you know, they're in precarious situations. There's a lot to this conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. I think it's a broader picture than what I had anticipated. Matt, what's your concept on that?
So, prostitution is a sliding scale. Prostitution is a sliding scale. And it can be as easy as a person asking you directly for money, or it can be a person hanging out with you to get dinner and a meal. Or it can be a person who's hanging out, showing you the island. And then at the end of your visit, they say, hey, you know what? Could you help me out with a small problem? So it goes a lot of different ways. And so I don't paint the women overseas with a broad brush. I mean, that young lady there seemed to indicate that she was, on the prostitution, straight up prostitution side with the twerking and, hey, Poppy, that sort of thing. But I think it runs the gamut. And I wouldn't particularly say anything. I will say this, though, that you will feel like a king if you leave here and go to Orlando Airport and fly to the DR, Medellin, Colombia, Brazil, any of those places, in part because you're an American. And don't underestimate the Americanness, because if you were from there looking the exact same way, you would not get that attention. But they call it passport bros for a reason. That American passport is like a gold card for some people, not for all people. So that's what I would say. So I think, again, prostitution is a sliding scale. And if it was just straight prostitution, they could stay here in Miami, Atlanta, LA, and find equally qualified women. But in all respect to the passport bros, they would say it's not the pay to play. It's how she makes me feel. It might be transactional, but it doesn't feel transactional. The way she stopped when he talked to her, her attitude was very pleasant. I mean, you may not like it, but she was pleasant. And that goes a long way in some people's experience. And as Ish said, if you are an incel and you're not, women are so rude, they won't even talk to you. And you can be pleasant all you want. Some of them are so rude to the men who are here in the United States, and not enough conversation goes on in that area.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to hold my comments until we come back from this commercial break. Because, I wasn't going to say too much, but
that's what you said.
I got like 2 minutes of saying, but I might cut it down to 30 seconds. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Interesting.
Look at me, I'm on. 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 Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going. Look. Bag, I'm racing the clock. Look at them flop, watching them flop. Used to see this on my sleep when I ain't had shit on my thoughts in the car. I really was lost. Now I'm public with the soundscapes. Niggas floss, I'm really pulling strings for the pound cake. I see you went for a puppet in the clown face for a little wage. That shit, the talk of the town is late. Still me, I never switch sides. Came a long way with the gap. Do you want it though? Where do I begin? I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Think deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard the scammer had to switch up the accounts. Moving paper, gotta call on my account. It's all in, I can have it coming out. Been through the struggle, I can see another drought. Yeah, it's not a purse, it's a merge. 6 figures was a goal, now it's 9 or a hearse. Put it work. Used to pull up, not swerve. No time for the snakes, trying to put them in the dirt. That's word. I gotta get it, it's in my DNA. You only see the highlights, don't know what it takes. Last year stressing, got no sleep. Now I'm right between the courts, out of nosebleeds. Yeah, I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Bank deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard the scammer had to switch up the accounts. Moving paper, gotta call on my account. It's all in, I can have it coming out. And through the struggle, I can see another drought. Yeah, same circles to the same gang. We just get to it, we don't gang bang. Lost some friends to the same thing.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's 5F's to Love. It's Real Talk with the Men because it's Thursday. And where we left off, it was a video with a young woman from the Dominican Republic who really showed this American guy a lot of attention. And I got that part. But I will say this, is that I think it's really interesting that all of the comments are around ease. They're easier to deal with. I don't have to listen to a lot of, I would say, the opinions or pushback that American women will have or do have. And the only thing I can say in response to that is that if you're looking for a mannequin, a thoughtless person, a robot, an AI to do whatever it is that you want to do, then have at it. I think that's the best way for you to go. I think, and I'm going to disagree with you, Ish, a lot of women are not looking for those 1%ers. In our group, we're beyond that. We just want a guy that's going to love us for us. We're going to work every day. So it's not about the money. The money is not important to us. Okay. So we're clear, because we have these conversations. You guys think it's important to us. It's not. Do you need to have a job? Yeah, you need to be a contributor. We don't even set the tone for basically my money makes me the boss. That's not even a lot of us. Our thing is we put our money together. We're going to grow together. But the thing you have to understand is this: we want ease too. And unfortunately, what Black men don't understand is that as a Black woman, number one, we weren't even recognized as human beings before you. We couldn't do anything as a woman unless we had a man to go help us get an account to do it. So now you feel like we should still play the same role when we came way behind you guys trying to establish the fact that we were human too. So yeah, we have a lot of opinions. Not only do we continue to get knocked down at home, publicly we get knocked down as Black women, as being angry Black women. Now that stuff carries over to work, where we can't really say anything because now you come off as an angry Black woman. And if a man said the same thing, they would be viewed that way. And then you also get pushback that you're not good enough. Your body doesn't look a certain way. You got too many opinions and all of this. Do you understand a Black woman's plight just to be successful? And this happened on Tuesday. We don't care that you have degrees. We don't care you went to college. We don't care you got money. We do care. You know why? We have ambition like you guys do. If Christine waited for a man to show up to put me in a position I'm in right now, I would be on the street. A man did not show up in my 20s. I was not this Christine in my 20s. I barely even talked in my 20s, by the way. And the thing is, he still didn't show up. In my 30s, he didn't show up. At that point, I wanted to have a kid. I had a kid in my late 30s because the guy didn't show up. So now you meet me at this point, and the first thing people say to me, you're used to having people give you yeses and do whatever you want because you're a CEO and you run your own company. All of that is false. I don't pay people to tell me yes. I pay people to tell me the truth. So those are all wrong. And the only thing that I can say, I don't think I would be cooking if I wasn't who I am right now. I sat in the kitchen every day with my mom who cooked. I'm just not a cooker. Just like some of you don't know how to fix anything. If I gave you a tool, you wouldn't know how to fix anything. But that doesn't make you less of a man. I don't even see it that way. So I will say this to you, all you African-American men and non-African, because it's not just Black men doing this, by the way, it's men in general. I will say this to you. This is a horrible way to set the tone for your children and our future as far as Americans. For you to think you have to go overseas to bring somebody back. And to me, it's like you wanted a slave. You want a yes person. The same thing you're condemning me for is what you want. So let me just say this to all y'all chicks going over there getting those dudes, you're wrong too. American men, and I would never trash an American man. American man is the best way to go. Any Black, white, Latino, whatever. You American made, you made strong. And I'm going to go for American every time. Now we're going to go to this next video, but we're going to be clear. I didn't like none of that.
Hey, look. Hey,
get it all up.
Get her ish.
Well,
Ish, what do you have to say?
Okay, let me be clear. I'm talking about a specific generation. I'm not talking about our generation. When I cited that 6 foot, 6 figures, those are people under 35. That's what they want.
Ish, it's guys our age going over there. Let me tell you something. You guys know most of my friends are guys. So we're gonna do a real. I know that they're doing this. They Chris, we going to Brazil, but Chris, you can't go. Okay, so we're clear. Chris can't go because y'all gonna go do y'all thing.
I think Ish is saying two different things, though, Christine. I think he's saying two different things.
What is he saying?
I think he's talking about a generational thing from the standpoint of what women say they want.
Correct.
As far as, for instance, you were talking about some of the things that Black women have had to go through to be viewed as equal. My daughter's generation doesn't have that same mentality because they didn't go through the same struggles. So she wouldn't inherit, we had to fight for this, that, and others. she can be told about it, but it's not, that hasn't
Right.
been necessarily her experience at 23. So I do think that we do need to be mindful that every generation has their wants, their desires, their likes, their quirks, and then it's not even just the generation, it's the area you're from. So, you know, a down south brother is different than an up north Chicago, Detroit, New York brother. It's different, you know, being in Alabama, Mississippi, whatever, it's a different energy, men and women. So I guess the real question comes into play is, and this is my perspective personally, you're free to go do what you have to do, and you don't have to down anybody else to do it.
But why are Black men doing that? Why are they
But
downing
you
Black
gotta
women?
understand. You got okay.
I mean, no, this is a real conversation.
It's not just Black men.
It's
It's Black men doing this.
But see, you got to recognize it's a thing. Without me getting too deep into this, of the scapegoat syndrome. Okay, so when people are looking to do something, all right, often they project the things that are going on onto someone else, so that gives them the reason to act the way they act. Scapegoat comes from this concept of in the Bible where the high priest would curse the sins of the people onto the scapegoat and send the goat out into the wilderness to die. In other words, there's always going to be projection, scapegoating, and making somebody else the reason why you can't succeed. All right. So it's a human phenomenon. I can have you look up somebody, for those who want to look up a philosopher named Rene Girard. He was a French philosopher, and they called it the Girardian hypothesis. And it talks about scapegoating and how it shows up in religion, how it shows up in politics, how it shows up in race, how it shows up in gender, how it shows up in nation. If we can just get rid of those people, everything will be fine.
But
It's
Gaylon,
those
when
people
you
are the reason why
look
we
at it,
can't succeed.
It's cause and effect. Every man keeps talking about how
not just
angry the
cause.
Black woman is, but if we're constantly being bashed in social media saying we're not good enough, that we rather be with this race or that race because to be with our own race is too much trouble, are you kidding me?
But I don't think that's the majority of guys, and I think this is
Well,
where I think this is I would disagree with you on that. The
Well, on this
majority of
podcast,
guys.
y'all said y'all like the path of least resistance.
No, I understand that, but here's the thing.
We said
Okay.
that's why they're doing it.
Right,
Don't
that's why
get
they're doing it. We're talking about passport bros.
misconstrued. We're not talking about us. We're talking about the majority of men that are doing it for that reason. Go ahead.
Right.
And Christine, most Black people to this day do not have a passport. So you can't even. Some people ain't even been
Most
out of
Americans
the
don't have a
state.
passport.
I know 50-year-old people who never
Only
had a
10%
passport.
of Americans have passports. So
Right.
it's not even just you're talking about the top tier percent of the
I get what you
country
guys are
doing
saying,
that.
but at the same time, Ish, you threw out stats about the number of women who are not married. And let me tell you something. The women who are in their 50s with me, and again, I'm speaking on behalf of women, these different things don't impact me at all. And I don't know why. I don't have an issue in my personal life, so I'm good. But let me just say this. It is definitely impacting the 50-year-old women, and it's more 50-year-old plus women, we're 45 to 55, who are single and they want to be married. And Matt, you and I talk about this all the time. We could do a whole show on it.
But you know, Christine, half of Black men will never marry. So to Ish's point, there are men who want to be married, who are involuntarily celibate. So I think if we just disregard this fact and say, well, something must be wrong with them, without looking at our entire community and saying, okay, what can we do to make sure that these men who want to be married and who are heterosexual, so they're looking for a woman, how do we make sure that they're have someone who meets their needs? And what are some things that we as a community, we as African-American women can do to identify those people? Because if half the men have never been married, that means we don't have a problem in availability. We have a problem in communication.
Okay, so here we go, Matt. Holly and Precious both said, of which neither one have been married, who are in real talk with the ladies, looks is not important to them. They want a good guy.
Well, you know what? I would tell you, you can't listen at what people say. You have to listen at what they do. If looks were not important, they would be married, because I guarantee you there are men. If you say looks aren't important and money's not important, then basically if you can fog a mirror, we can get married. And I can tell you there's men who can fog a mirror.
Okay, I didn't say to me, but I will tell you this. I am going to have a real conversation, and we are going to do it in June. And by the way, folks, June is my birthday month. And we're going to have a show called Face Off. It'll be Real Talk Men against Real Talk Women. I'm going to divide you. We're going to have a show on Tuesday, half and half, and one on Thursday, half and half. And it's going to be the same topic, because my ladies want to talk to you guys, because they're disagreeing with a lot of things that you're saying, and they want to do a face-off.
I don't want to make this a black man versus black woman issue. I think you're kind of skewing it in that direction. That's not what it is. This is an American problem. Okay, American men are not happy with American women.
Are you saying I'm skewing it?
And I want to be solution oriented. And I was hoping the Reverend can talk about some passages from the Bible which speak to how a man should conduct himself and how a woman should conduct themselves. I think this whole feminist movement has pushed the country so far to the left that women are we talked about the masculinity on a previous podcast. The men are going onto these countries because they want feminine women, and women who are masculine are difficult to deal with.
Wait. Let me ask you a quick question. You said I said it's an American issue. I can't speak from an American perspective. I'm a black woman.
No, I'm saying
I can't look at this from a white woman, a Latina woman.
You're skewing what I'm saying and making it seem as like we're bashing. It's not about black women. It's all American women.
I'm sorry, Ish. The only view I can see is my view, because I've never been a white woman. So to me, if I hear black men talking about black women, that's what
I was talking about women in general. I didn't say black women. I was talking about women in general.
Right. Ish, are you married to a black woman?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and so what did you say? We didn't
married 18 years to a black woman.
Right, and did you say we didn't skew it to the right or something? What did you say?
I said the feminist movement, which encompasses all races and ethnicities, has skewed our culture to the left.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm 100%. The feminist movement has that's why I brought up those statistics, because going forward 2030, you just said like a lot of women your age are unmarried. In 10 years, it's going to even be worse.
Okay, so Ish, let's do real talk in this conversation. The top earners are women right now. Top earners are women.
Yeah.
So I'm not understanding what is happening with this conversation, because we didn't ask men not to before.
What does it have to do with what we're talking about?
No, but what I'm saying to you is women came from behind and we're top earners. We didn't ask men to stop earning and working hard to basically hold the line. When the line wasn't continuously being held, we stepped up to hold it up. It's not, and let me be clear, I didn't ask to be this woman. I would have preferred to be a wife, taking care of my kids and doing a beautiful home like my mom. But that wasn't presented to me. Do you understand? So now we're
not yet. A few different things.
We're off topic. I think the conversation is going in two different rails. I think from my perspective, the conversation of the show was us to objectively look at a subject and say, this is why we think it's happening. I think, Christine, to a certain extent, now you're making giving a subjective opinion about a black woman in a particular age and stage of your life, which I think is two different things.
It is.
You do have a right to the conversation of your age and stage as a black woman. But the conversation that you brought to us is, why are guys doing this? Now, whether it's our guys in our community or guys in general.
Every conversation was about the black woman. They started out about black women, and this is why they were doing it.
But here's the thing. The video you showed, for instance, Jason Whitlock is a clown. Let me just put that right out there. He's a clown. He's absolute. I've been following Jason Whitlock for years, and I've seen his clown consciousness evolve.
I'm not disagreeing.
Jason Whitlock is a clown. And I don't have a problem saying that publicly on this podcast. Okay. So he's going to go find the extremes that talk about this. The majority of the guys that are going to these passport bros and whatever, without saying what the country is, I know a group of guys that go to a particular country. They all got women in that particular country. They're not hookers. They're not whatever, etc. They're more like what Matt is saying. Hey, could you help me out with this stuff? Can you help me out with that? When they show up, they bring them presents and gifts. They send them a little money via PayPal and whatever, and they have their own little world. And when they go on vacation, the world stops for them, and they get the attention they desire.
They get fantasy island.
What I'm saying is the majority of the guys that are going over there, I don't believe are going over there because they're bashing American women or American Black women. They're deciding to go live their fantasy.
I get that part. But Gaylon, the people who are getting 500 to 1 million views are the ones that are bashing Black women and saying that's the reason why we're over here, because Black women are not measuring up.
How is that any different than you covering all these positive subjects on this podcast and the various podcasts you have, and then somebody that wants to shake their butt in front of the camera getting 2 million views? People like launching this. People love the love and hip hop consciousness.
We are a society
that's going on. They like the ratchetness. They want to keep up with the Kardashians. They don't want to keep up with the person who is talking about wealth and success and love and the things of that nature. So it's always going to be the noise is always going to attract the attention. And that, I think, Christine, sometimes we don't want to face the facts that human beings tend to trend toward the lowest common denominator often. We want to view ourselves more righteously than how we present ourselves. And Matt said it best earlier. Stop listening to what people are telling you.
Pay attention.
Watch what they do. Those same women that talk about Black women being portrayed a certain kind of way, many of them are the main reason why VH1 and all these other channels play all these ratchet, horrible shows that present Black women as absolute clowns and violent buffoons with butts, balloon butts, and all of this other stuff. They say, why are we doing that? Why are we promoting this? Why come men aren't accepting us for who we are? Yet the reason why these shows are on TV is not because of guys, and they're not because of Black men. These shows are on TV solely because Black women support them. Black women,
y'all better start watching them.
These ratchet women into superstars.
I agree. I'm not, Gaylon, I'm not going to disagree with you.
As Michael Jackson said, Christine, I'm looking at the man in the mirror or the woman.
Gaylon, don't be throwing my favorite artist
to change his ways or her ways.
Don't be throwing Michael in this.
You about to get the
you have to go there, Christine, because I'm like, let's stop playing. People don't want to look in the mirror.
Well,
they don't want to say this. But here's the thing: the mirror never lies, and life will always present to you the mirror. You don't have to like what you see in the mirror. You can walk around like, man, I'm looking. I need to whatever. But the mirror's not gonna lie. The mirror's not. You can't put makeup on the mirror.
You know what, Gaylon, you're right. And let me tell you something, ladies. I'm not going to disagree with anything Gaylon said. I don't watch any of those things. That's not my thing. I don't even know what Reality Housewives, 1000 show, whatever country they in. I don't know any of that.
Most of them aren't even wives. Real Housewives or something. They all side chicks. But they
exactly. None of them are housewives. They all side chicks.
Oh no, I think
they need to call it side chicks or something. And I agree with you. So, folks, I'm going to say this to you, just real talk. Ladies, I did my best to stand in for us. Because I got a lot of text messages from the girls told me to hold the line. So I did my best to hold the line with these guys. But one thing I will say is that every single guy on this podcast is married to a Black woman. So definitely I don't have any issues with any of you guys, your perspective about what's going on. I appreciate the realness. But I will say this to you ladies, Gaylon was right. You need to take a look in the mirror. And your value is only set at what you truly feel your value is set at. I think I'm amazing. And I walk into rooms like I'm a rock star. So I don't ever devalue myself based on the noise that's out there. And I don't feed into it. I'm my own, I guess I'm my biggest critic. And I guess it's what these guys are saying. If you're worried or concerned about the person who's over there grabbing up these babes with these passports, then that's your issue. You'll have to figure it out. And if you're the person that's going to get those Brazilian butt lifts and all of that cinching and tucking, and you fighting a war with them, Christine, not doing all of that. I am who I am. This is the package. Take it as it is. Let's rock and roll, folks.
Well, Christine, but this is the challenge comes into play because now the women in our generation, because there's so many of them that are single, and they're thinking they're competing not with these women in other countries, but they're also competing with they're also competing metaphorically with their own daughters and nieces and granddaughters, etc. So the marketplace value that shows up is now they need their bodies, their look, or they use their resources to compete with younger women for the attention of men their age, and they're trying to compete to get men that are younger than them. So it's a different conversation now than it used to be, and I think we just got to be present to what's actually happening. And the reason why I just tell people you got to look in the mirror is because people want to portray their values as being something other than what they are. But you are what you do.
That's why you got to watch next week's podcast with the guys. It's talking about, do you see the beauty in me? And it's talking about Black women. So it's exactly what Gaylon was talking about. Because again, women my age feel that they need to compete with their daughters, with their nieces, for the attention of a man that's their age. And that's a bigger conversation we're going to have next week. I'm excited about these conversations, by the way. I count myself as a minority in that group. I feel like I don't compete with anybody. So I don't even focus on that kind of stuff. But I will say this, when I talk to my girlfriends, they do feel that way. And that's why they feel they have to get facelifts and body tucks and all of that kind of stuff. And they're trying to impress and get the attention of men. And I get that part. I don't know. We're going to talk about that next week. I think having an awesome character is what gets the attention of a man. And maybe not being so lippy. What did one woman say? Forget that independent woman stuff. I was like, by the way, that is a real conversation that me and the girls had backstage. And they said, how many of you would give up right now this whole slogan of being an independent woman? I've never used that slogan. I've never said that I didn't need a man. I just simply said I couldn't wait for a man to be where I needed to be, so I had to go get it, right? It's not to say, now y'all already know, let somebody come along. This will be the last podcast. I'll be like, thank you so much. This is the last podcast for the 5S to Love. I'm going off to be Mrs. Simultaneous, okay? So just know Christine is already there. I want to thank everybody for joining this conversation with us tonight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you next week where we're going to talk about whether the men see the beauty in the ladies. We're talking about the Black ladies. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me with this conversation. I'll see you guys next week, same time, same place.
All right.